Welcome back to another episode of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I am your host, Crimson Cavalier. In our last episode, we completed the first real dungeon, the East Palace. With that, we can now exit this place and head back to the Elder. He wanted us to retrieve the pendant before he told us more about the legend. We have the pendant in hand, and now we can go and talk to him. Oh, you got the Pendant of Courage. Now we'll tell you more of the legend. 3 or 4 generations ago, the royal knights guarded this land. These knights of Hyrule were also guardians of the Pendant of Courage. Unfortunately, most of them were destroyed in a great war against evil that took place when the 7 wise men created their seal. Among the descendants, a hero must appear. I believe you should get the remaining pendants, Link, and carry this with you. This is a treasure passed down by the families of the wise men. I want you to have it. And now we have the Pegasus shoes. I can now execute a devastating dash attack. A helpful item is hidden in the cave on the east side of Lake Hylia. Let's get that. So now I will explain to you the A-do command. So as you can see, we now have the boot under our red box there. It says do. Lift, read, talk, pull, run. By pressing A, I can run, and I can run into stuff. Very convenient. So, east of Lake Hylia. Which one is Lake Hylia? Well, it's really the only lake in the game. And it's down to our south. So that's where we're headed. Now, there are some items in this game that are entirely optional. They're not necessary to complete the game. But you know what? It could come in handy, so I'm going to grab it anyway. One of those items is the one he spoke of. Also, I just love running around with the boots. It makes everything faster and a lot more fun. Now here we have a sealed cave. I will go ahead and blow that up. I'm not going to go in there right now because if I remember correctly, it's just a fairy, and I am at full hearts right now, and I don't need one. But it's a good idea to keep in mind that there are fairy fountains all over the place in this game. Now something I need to mention really quickly, those crabs are awful. At this low level, those guys will take 2 hearts. Alright, that's how strong they are. That can be devastating with only having 5 hearts. Another thing you should know is those green guys, don't attack them with your sword, because they will electrocute you. And what about this weird looking explodey thing? It's the only one in the game. I've always found it extremely odd. It blows up. It gets fatter and fatter until it blows up. Now, like I said, these crabs are awful, so be very careful around them. They run when they're side to side. They're slow when they're walking normally. And like I said, there's a prime example of how sometimes there are enemies hidden in the bushes, which I think is ridiculous. So we're going to lay a bomb here. We're going to crack open this cave, walk inside, and collect the treasure that Saharsala told us about, which is, of course, the ice rod. It uses up magic. Here it is. I'll be honest with you, I'm probably never going to use it. But I have it now, because I like to collect all the items in the game. There are a couple items in this game that you just absolutely don't need at all, but are very nice to have. Next, we're going to blow a hole here, and I'm going to equip my net. Why? Because of these guys. Now, if you might remember, I didn't mean to touch it. I have 2 bottles. I can collect fairies and keep them in bottles. So since I accidentally touched the fairy instead of capturing it in my net, I have to exit the cave, come back in. Come on, fairy. There we go. So if I go up to my inventory screen, I can hover over my bottles, and you can see I have 2 bottles and a fairy in each. That's all we needed. Gotta be very careful with these crabs. If I can avoid them, I'm just gonna leave. They are no good. They're no good to mess with. Ah, thought the bush would stop it, but it didn't. That's okay. What? It's such a strange enemy. Doesn't make any sense to me. Now you can't kill these guys by hitting them with a boomerang and then hitting them with the sword. It's not necessary. Just it might be good to just avoid them. And now we've disturbed the bee, and he will follow us until we leave the screen. So let's do that. Well, now we did get hit. Now we are a little low on heart. So now would be a good time to go into the cave I mentioned with the fairy. This is the classic Zelda fairy fountain music. And these, unlike the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask fairies, are not creepy looking. There's one more thing I want to do before we head back and continue on the adventure. There's one of the... Ooh, a fairy? Well, I didn't need it, but... There's one of the red enemies I was telling you about. So green is the strongest. Green is the weakest, then red. Then blue, I mean, then red. So... just so you know. Additionally, they will notice you easier depending on their color. Green ones, you can almost walk right by them and they may not notice you. Blue ones may notice you a little bit easier, and the red ones will notice you a lot easier. Just something to keep in mind. As I run away from these guys. Alright, strewn about the land, you may find rock formations like this one. If you run into them with the shoes, you will crack them open and you can go inside. This one in particular houses something we really want, a piece of heart. We've now collected 2 pieces of heart. We're halfway to collecting another entire heart container. But for now, we're going to head back to Kakariko Village because there's something important that we need here. You may also notice that there are some trees that are by themselves. So you have the trees like these at the bottom that are connected to each other, and then you have the tree like this one that is by itself. If you run into trees like this, sometimes items will come out of them. Sometimes a bomb, sometimes fruit, which you can collect for recovering heart, sometimes money, sometimes bees. It's random. Some trees always have the same item that comes out of them. Now, if you catch this guy, if you guys wanted to know, he'll tell you exactly what I just said. Dash into stuff like trees, and sometimes you can get items. So, there's actually no reason for me to do that, to catch that guy, because I already knew that dashing into the trees did that particular thing. But either way, I just wanted to show you guys. So here we are at the library, and speaking of dashing into things, there's a book on top of that bookshelf that we can't reach. So we're going to run into the bookshelf, knock it down, and we have now found the Book of Mudora. We can use it to read ancient language of the Hylia. We can now move on to the next temple, which, if you open up the map, you will see that it's in the desert here at the southwest corner of Hyrule, and there's only one way to get there, so we're going to have to do a little backtracking. Some shortcuts will be opened up to me as I collect different items, but for right now I don't have the item necessary to take the shortcut, so we'll take the long way. Good to know, this tree in particular right here, always has a fairy. Just something for you guys to know. So I actually do want to show you, this is the way to the shortcut. As you can see, I cannot grab or pull or lift this giant rock. I'm just not strong enough. So unfortunately, I have to go all the way around. Ooh, that was close. I don't like to bother with these guys. I'm just gonna make my way past them. I don't have time to deal with them. Now these crows can be quite annoying, but we're gonna go ahead and kill it and move on. Now some enemies, as you noticed earlier, live under rocks and bushes. They're very easy to kill. For right now, we're gonna ignore that man. Later on, he becomes extremely important, but for now, he's just a random guy. Now, this cave up here contains another fairy fountain. If you were in need of a heart refill, that'd be a good place to go. But for now, we're not needing that. We're going to go straight up here into this cave. In this cave, we encounter Saharsala's twin. It looks exactly the same. What does he say? Ah, you have the Book of Medora. With it, you can read the language of the Hylia people. Well, like Saharsala, he has a sealed wall. I wonder what he's hiding. Well, we're going to take it, whatever it is. And wouldn't you know it, it's our third piece of heart. We are now one piece of heart away from collecting another full heart piece, heart container. So, armed the way that we are currently, we're going to make our way over to the second dungeon. Now you will see the sand people coming out of the sand. Completely ignore them. They're not that bad. They really aren't. You can worry about the vulture if you want. They're more annoying than anything. You don't need to worry about it. So here we have a stone tablet. If you read it, you can see that it's gibberish. You have no idea what it's saying. I wonder if this is the ancient text of the Hylia people. Let's find out. To open the way forward, make your wish here, and it will be granted. And so Link makes his wish. We don't know what his wish is, but it opens the way forward nonetheless. This vulture is getting on my nerves. I'm just going to have my sword out in case. I'd actually like to get rid of him. There we go. No big deal. We're about to enter Dungeon 2, and this is where we're going to leave off this episode. In the next episode, I will take on this dungeon, gather the treasure inside. It's one of the most important treasures in the game, and we will collect the second pendant. I hope you join me for another episode of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.